Well, good evening, everybody. Ben Dorr here, Executive Director with Minnesota Gun Rights. I hope you're not outside right now. I hope you're not out on the road because it's a bad day to be on the road, especially if you're heading north on I-35. From where I live in Northfield, there's a lot of semis that are jackknifed in the ditch. And last I heard, the entire interstate was shut down. So I hope you're inside. I hope you're warm. And I hope you're tuning in right now to this show because we have an emergency on our hands, a gun control emergency. I'm joined with Chris, who is the president of Minnesota Gun Rights, my brother. And we're going to kick this off here in a minute. Let us know where you're watching from all across the state again. And if you're in a ditch somewhere and you're still watching on your phone, tell me in the comments section. I'll send you a free Minnesota Gun Rights t-shirt. But you have to prove you were sitting in the ditch at the time of this recording. So those are the rules. We have Ryan checking in. It's bad here. So Chris does not live in Minnesota.
No, I live in Ohio and Pennsylvania, so it's not that cold here, thankfully.
Enjoying far better weather than we are. We have Mark checking in from Hayfield. We have Ryan checking in Byron, Minnesota. We have Benjamin checking in from Hibbing. We have Maverick in International Falls, Minnesota. Guys, if you could do me a favor right away, we have Brian in Crookston. Do me a favor, share this video with your family and friends. We have basically 25 pages of gun control bill here that were just dropped very recently. And we're going to break this down for you. Super condensed, super easy to digest. And we need to get the word out on this. We need to raise a hell of a storm on these gun control bills, because if we don't, they're going to pass something. If we don't, they're going to go, well, my gosh, this is the biggest gun control bill we ever introduced, and we didn't hear a peep out of the gun rights community. Maybe we can pass a red flag law. Maybe we can pass a universal background checks, a statewide gun registration bill. We need to raise holy hell on this, and we need to do it pronto. Let's see here. So first thing, there's two bills. It's Senate File 3377 and Senate File 3378. These were both introduced by Senator John Marty. He's a no-name loser who really ought to know better. I mean, he's really a trash ball, but he is a Metro City, Ramsey County Democrat, so we don't expect anything different out of a guy like that. And he's introducing these bills, and he wants you to know that these are not an infringement on your constitutional rights. These are narrowly tailored bills that fall well within the scope of the Second Amendment, and are much like our long-standing system of driver's licenses and registration for motor vehicles. I don't know what you think about that.
He literally has this listed at the top of the bill.
Oh yeah, it's right here. It's the legislative intent and purpose. I'm just going to read this top portion for you. Yeah. I'm not going to read 24 pages of bill at you.
Because this is where the worldview, this is where they reveal themselves. They can say all they want to the fake news media, and whatever, but this is where they betray what they're really after here. This is where you can see how jacked up and screwed up they are right up here in the head. And they know it. It's not like they have some kind of a disease. No, their worldview, their view of you as citizen chattel is revealed right here. So jump into that, man. I
mean, this is their chance to make their best argument on why this is a-okay. So here's the legislative intent and purpose: to protect the life and liberty of Minnesotans from gun violence by people who would deny them those rights. It is necessary to implement a rational regulatory system for firearms, similar to Minnesota's long-standing system for licensing drivers and registering motor vehicles. Motor vehicles have lawful purposes, but they can be deadly. Likewise for firearms. Motor vehicle ownership and use has been responsibly regulated, resulting in reductions in motor vehicle fatalities. A similar system of rational and responsible regulations of firearms would result in reduction of firearms-related fatalities as well. The United States Supreme Court has held that the Second Amendment guarantees an individual right to bear arms in self-defense. However, the court acknowledged that reasonable restrictions may be placed on firearms, some of which have been effectively banned from private ownership. This legislation is consistent with the court's holdings and strikes a proper balance between an individual's right to bear arms and the compelling interests of the state, both in ensuring that dangerous persons do not get access to firearms and protecting its citizens from gun violence. Nothing in this legislation infringes on the constitutional right to keep and bear arms. The legislation is narrowly tailored to achieve a compelling state interest while placing minimum burdens on individuals who wish to own and possess a firearm. This guy's an absolute stark raving lunatic. That's what you are, John Marty. You should be ashamed of yourself and you shouldn't hold public office. People like that have no business making laws for the people to live underneath. You have no business crafting this type of absolute abject nonsense. And you're a fool. You're an absolute fool, John Marty. But it's pretty typical for a Ramsey County Democrat senator. We expect nothing different.
Yeah. Right. I don't even know where you start with.
There's so much in this bill. I mean, we broke it down to like 10 things that it does. Normally a bill is one or two things. It's either a red flag gun confiscation bill and it acts in one way, or it is a bill that requires a background check for all firearms sales. And so a bill just sort of is what it is, but he crams so much bullshit into these bills, it's hard to even digest. So we'll just go through the list. Chris, should we go through the list here?
Yeah, let's go through the list. But before we do, let's just remind everybody what we all know to be true, and that is the freaking the Bill of Rights, the Second Amendment, was written as a freaking restriction on government. It is government that needs that has the restriction there. So it's not the government. The government doesn't have the ability to regulate our right to defend ourselves. No, on the contrary, that stuff was written to protect the citizens from government. So everything that vomited out of his mouth and onto that piece of paper was a total bastardization of his role and a total violation of the Constitution. So yeah, we can go through them, but this a-hole is attacking the very fabric that keeps our country together here.
Yeah. And by the way, John, hey, John, when you're watching this, because I know you're going to watch this, John, did you happen to notice there have been 650 carjackings in Minneapolis alone? 650 in the last year. That's up by hundreds of percentage points. People are getting kicked out of their cars at gunpoint by thugs all the freaking time. Your city is basically burning, and you have the gall to introduce this trash and try to tell all of us how to live our lives, what guns we can own, where they can be stored, what kind of insurance we're supposed to have, and what guns have to be registered. Wake up and smell the roses, John. None of this stuff in here will stop a single one of those thugs in your city and in your county, but you don't want to talk about those things because that's racist. That's racist. No, you're a blind old fool. So the first thing this bill would do, thank you, Kristen. Kristen agrees. She says true statement. Thank you. The first thing this bill would do is require the registration of all firearms. Now, we've called universal background checks universal gun registration for a long time because it is, in a sense, a de facto gun registry, right? If you have to go through this background check system, your name goes into this database and it sort of becomes this database, this registry of guns. This is not like that. This just simply requires that all firearms that you buy, you have to fill out registration forms and give them to your sheriff's department in order to own a firearm in the state of Minnesota. So that's the first thing that this bill would do.
And of course, that's never been lethal in human history before, when governments get lists of everybody who own arms and have the ability to defend themselves against the government. That's never been a problem before in human history, has it? No, the Jews weren't just exterminated. Just you can go through the whole list. 43 or 46 million people in the 20th century alone were murdered by their governments because they had disarmed their people. So yeah, letting government have lists of guns and gun owners, sure, yeah, why not?
Yeah, no problems there. No problems there. Um, I read a meme today that said we're failing the history test here. Like we're repeating history. It's like failing an open book test, at school. We're repeating the same things that have happened before and pretending that something different is going to happen. And that's exactly what it is when it comes to gun registration. It leads to gun confiscation, and it has in countries all across the world throughout the last 100 and some odd years. So that's a big hell no to that first point in your bills here, dumb John Marty. The second thing this bill would do, and now imagine this, get this one. The second thing this bill would do is only allow you to purchase one firearm every 30 days. Now, if you'll remember, because everybody remembers this, everybody but the Democrats, everybody but the GOP in Minnesota, everybody but the media, everybody else remembers that. Basically, all the people remember that, our city was on fire for like the entire summer of 2020. They burned, looted, and destroyed 1,500 plus businesses in Minneapolis alone. 1,500
Jeez.
businesses. And what happened? You had these little old ladies calling in, help me, help me. The cops can't come. The cops aren't coming. Nobody's helping them. Everything's burning. People were out in force buying firearms. People were buying 2, 3, 5 at a time. Families, husbands
God
and
bless
wives
them.
collectively were going out buying guns together because you know what? They're burning the police precincts. They're burning down the Target. They're roasting the automotive stores, and nobody's protecting us. Nobody can except ourselves. And these psychopaths want to restrict it to one firearms purchase per month. I don't even know what to say to that.
All I feel is total anger and rage. I mean, what's that going to do to people like me who I like to buy? If I can afford it, I'd like to buy 50 or 100 guns a month. I mean, it's my freaking right to do so. I used to live in Virginia, actually, a number of years ago, and they had that same trash ball law out there at the time. And, it was everything we could do to get Republicans to roll that sucker back. But violent crime in these big cities just skyrocketed the day that they passed that law. Everybody knew, there's fewer guns in the streets. People can't get their hands on them. But when I see people, these thugs, these just mobs out of control walking up Lake Street and raising those machetes in the air like they were doing, and had their torches in their freaking hands.
Like the Congo.
Yeah, I mean that's some that just doesn't fly around here.
That's not
You know,
American.
it's not, no. And should people go to their local gun shop and buy every single gun on the shelf and go pass them out to their neighbors at times like that? Absolutely. This is the land of the free and the home of the freaking brave. It's not the place, the country where we're going to get ruled and mobbed by dogs like we all saw right there. So for Senator Marty, I mean, what a total bastardization of the title senator too. I mean, these dogs are now in office and they want to get more. That's why they're trying to gerrymander all the districts. They want to get more John Martys in there so that the next time there's a school shooting, they can pass all of this crap. They want, and again, that's exactly what bills like this are. They're flagging everything that they want. Everything. If you give them 1 inch, they will ram the whole freaking freight train in through here, and this is what you'll get.
Right. And
We're
even if
we're only on item number 2 here
number 2
of 10 that we bothered to spell out
of the 10 we broke down.
right.
Well, and if any one of these things becomes law, if even if they don't ram it all through, if any of this becomes law, it'll be a disaster. It'll be an absolute disaster for our Second Amendment freedoms.
Right.
It just will.
Well, because it's what they'll build on. They'll use everything as a stepping stone. They get one thing in, they get another thing in the next time. You can't let them have anything. Compromise has never worked.
Yes. I want to just pause here for a moment. There's a dumb old boomer in the comments section named Dan Thompson. Dumb Dan Thompson is apparently still infatuated with the not real activists, the NRA. And even though the NRA doesn't do a damn thing in Minnesota, haven't for years, they support red flag gun confiscations. Wayne LaPierre supports universal background checks, forcing you to go through a background check before you give a gun to your wife. I mean, the NRA is sold out trash, and they have been for a long, long time. They don't lift a finger in Minnesota other than to pilfer money out of this state to send over to Wayne LaPierre to help cover the cost of their lawsuits for the fraud that they've been committing for the last 15 years. So Dan Thompson, who's in the comments section, all furious that Minnesota gun rights is drawing attention to these gun control bills, you can hop right off our Facebook page and you can go buy another plane ticket for Wayne LaPierre to go on a safari hunt to Africa. Okay. If you want to buy that dude a new pair of $40,000 snakeskin boots, be my guest. Okay. It's not my jam. That's not what we do here at Minnesota Gun Rights. We run a tight ship. We oppose gun control. We never compromise, and we don't need losers like Dan blowing up our comment section. So adios, amigo.
Yeah.
And go.
I almost have nothing else to add to that, but not only has Minnesota gun rights defeated and killed off every single gun control bill introduced into Minnesota in the last decade. Honestly, we're coming up on almost 10 years here, Ben, with Minnesota gun rights.
10-year anniversary.
Not only have we done that, not only has NRA been totally AWOL throughout those entire 10 years and didn't play any part of that, but Minnesota gun rights also has the history of never testifying in front of Congress, in front of the Gun-Free School Zones Act. We never did that kind of trash that Wayne LaPierre did. We never sat down and brokered the deal with the Brady campaign to institute the National NCIC database that now is all over the news, that the ATF has kept 94 million records of guns and gun owners since that NCIC database was implemented in 1994 at the behest of the National Rifle Association. So those are some things that Minnesota gun rights didn't do, and we're damn proud of that. So Dan, get the out of here.
Yeah. We didn't support the bump stock ban that got passed. We didn't support fixed NICS. We didn't support the Lautenberg Amendment. We didn't support any of that crap. Your beloved NRA did. And in many ways, that's the reason we find ourselves in many of the gun control problems that we do today, because politicians know that the NRA will compromise with them if they can find the right kind of bill. So the NRA would take bills like these, and they would go, you know what? We'll give you 20% of that.
Yeah.
We'll cut out this, cut out that, cut out the worst stuff. But we'll do one gun a month every 30 days. That's the crap they do. We don't do that crap. They've been doing it for a long time. And that's why the NRA has hemorrhaged hundreds of thousands of members. They're going and joining the American Firearms Association. They are not joining the NRA anymore because people are tired of being taken advantage of and being screwed over by people who are supposed to be fighting for them. So it seems that Dan has finally gone silent. Good. I'm happy. Be quiet over there. We're going to keep going through the rest of this bill. Let the Patriots like Kristen and Ryan and Jerry and Nathan, who are talking here in the comment section, let them communicate with us, ask questions, give us feedback on what we're talking about here. And Dan can just sit quiet for a few minutes. How about that? All right, let's move on. Number 3. So we have first, number 1, registration of all firearms. There you go. Boom. Plain and simple. Number 2, only allowed to purchase one gun every 30 days. And now, number 3, we have registration of all magazines that hold over 10 rounds of ammunition. It's the same. Oh my gosh, I would have my registration forms would go from this office to my house if I had to register all of the magazines that I own. Again, screw you, John. We're not putting up with any of this. We're not signing off on any of this. Number four, police chiefs. Get this one. Police chiefs will be given the power to issue permits to carry in the state of Minnesota. Right now, it is sheriff's departments, sheriffs who issue those permits. And of course, as everybody knows, sheriffs are electable and they're unelectable, right? If you don't like your sheriff, if your sheriff is being a petty liberal tyrant, you can vote him out of office if you so choose. Police chiefs, well, that's not the case. Police chiefs are appointed by their liberal POS mayors like
Yes.
Jacob Fry, you know who I'm talking about, Mayor Minneapolis, Carter in St. Paul. The police chiefs are appointed by the mayors. So they can sit there and find any excuse they want to not issue a permit to carry, and they can do it all they please. And if you don't like it, there's not a thing you can do about it.
No.
And the chief of police doesn't give a rat's whether you like it or not, because he doesn't need to get your vote.
Well, remember the former Minneapolis police chief. I think her name was Jenny Harto, and I could be
Man,
wrong
that's almost an old name now.
in the way I'm pronouncing that. But when I was really involved with Minnesota gun rights on a day-to-day basis, she was the left-wing nut job police chief mayor of Minneapolis that was going out there and sitting down right next to Barack Obama back in 2000 and what would have been 2011, 2012, and sitting down there calling for this national gun registrations. No, I'm sorry, it's 2013, right after the Newtown thing.
Yes.
And sitting down there as they were pushing for national gun registration across the entire board. So you want to try to get in tons of early MGR, some of the founding MGR members became members of Minnesota gun rights because that trash ball was attacking their gun rights so viciously. Okay, we're going to turn over our carry permit system to that loser? Oh no, hell no. No, this is America.
Right.
Janine
So
Hartzell.
we would see massive amounts of gun owners not being given permits to carry, which should be done away with. Minnesota should have constitutional carry. And just for the record, we're going to be live here in about an hour and a half with a fantastic announcement on that. So stay tuned for that. But with this, you would have gun owners being denied their permits on a false basis, false reasonings, and you would not be able to carry a firearm when these chiefs of police are given the ability to issue or deny permits. It's already hard enough in counties like Hennepin County to get a permit to carry. This would make it virtually impossible.
And I don't trust
the intention.
Yeah, I don't trust the chief of police in any town in Minnesota. I mean, Rochester, Duluth. I don't. Ben, you and I grew up by Worthington, Minnesota, right across the border on the Iowa side. I wouldn't trust the chief of police in Worthington, Minnesota, to sign off on my freaking permit. No.
I got my very first permit to carry out of the sheriff's department in Worthington, Minnesota, and they didn't like that at all. They jerked me around for days on that. If it was the chief of police in Worthington, he'd have found a reason in a heartbeat. So that's a big no from us, John. So that's number 4.
Again, for those of you who are just tuning in now, we're breaking down Senate File 3377 that was introduced by Senator John. Is it John Marty? John Marty. And this is just we're 3 or 4 into a whole list of at least 10 things that are crammed into this bill. Again, what the Democrats excel at and what Republicans suck at is the Democrats will introduce bills like this, push them 100%, and their goal is to at least get 10% of it passed. Republicans usually sit there and like, oh, they want to get all these 10 things into law. Well, we'll be happy if we just stop them at 10%, and that way we can say we defeated 90% of the gun rights bills. Yeah, isn't that just a wonderful deal? Bullshit. That's how the Democrats keep winning. It's how Republicans keep losing. It's how conservatives, freedom-loving Americans keep losing. So anyway, that's where we're at. I think we're on number 5 now.
We're on
right?
5 now. Number 5. Yeah. It's 2 bills, Senate File 3377 and 3378. And they're like, it's literally 25 pages of bills here that I'm holding. And we're just breaking it down into 10 digestible pieces of tyranny for everybody. So number 5 would require mental health and physical health tests to get a permit to carry. That would be the end of people like you and me carrying firearms, getting permits to carry in the state of Minnesota. They would immediately say, for me, for example, well, you're the gun rights activist. You're the gun guy. You're a nut. You're a right winger. You're a Trump guy. And they would immediately mark down as me being a mentally unfit. If there's a picture of you holding an American flag on an overpass somewhere, you would be deemed mentally unfit. If you had a Trump sign in your yard going into 2020, you would be seen as mentally unfit. Okay. They would look into your health status, your vaccination statuses and things like that.
For sure.
All of that stuff would play in to their decision on whether or not you had the mental health necessary to get a permit. People like you and me would no longer be able to carry firearms in the state of Minnesota.
They would categorize every single gun owner as either a racist, a misogynist, a white supremacist, or they're just trying to blatantly add patriot to the list of disqualifiers. Now, if you love this country, if you love your heritage, if you love the way you grew up, if you love your family name, you love the ability to trace your heritage back 350 years, that is all privileged. It's a mental derangement, and you're unfit now to own a firearm because you haven't met our mental qualifications. Keep in mind, these are the same dumbasses who can't open up their own pants, see what kind of genitalia they've got, and know if they're a boy or a girl. They don't. This is the garbage that they push down our throats. You look at what they're doing to our schools, and they're teaching our kids that you're all freaks, that there is no right and wrong. These are the people that want to be in charge of making these decisions, whether or not you are mentally fit to own a firearm. I mean, come on. Really? Hell no. No.
Yeah.
We decline.
Madness. Yeah, it's madness is what it is. These people are absolutely out of their minds, insane. If these people ruled this country entirely, if people like us didn't exist, America would die.
Yeah, it looked like Lake Street in the summer of 2020 on the south side of Minneapolis. That's what their version of America looks like. It looks like Venezuela, looks like Lake Street on the south side of Minneapolis. That's what that's the end goal for them. Those things are all like the deconstruction of society, of law and order, of Western civilization. These are things that they want because they hate everything about our country that made it great.
That's why we fight so damn hard. And that's why people like Dan here in the comments section who's losing it earlier. None of your pals at the NRA care about any of this stuff. They're not fighting for their children like we are. They're not fighting for the future of our country. That's what we're here to do, guys. If you would take a minute, especially when this video is over, click on the link in the comments section, and on top of this video, sign your petition telling your senator to vote no on Senate File 3377 and Senate File 3378. If you don't see it in the comments section, the link is in the description. of this video. And I would encourage you to take that link and send it to your family and friends. I often get messages on Facebook from people, check this out, watch this video. Did you see this gun rights article? Things like that. Take that link, send it to your friends, and tell them to sign it as well. And we will deliver them to the Capitol for you. We have fought some major gun control bills in the past. In 2018, some of you may remember House File 3022 is what it was. Representative Linda Slocum's gun control mega bill is what we called it. It was pancakes compared to this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The gun control bill that was just introduced, House File 2705, that was just dropped by Representative Sandell in the Minnesota House. That only had 2 or 3 gun control provisions in it, and it was one of the worst we've seen. This is the worst gun control that Minnesota Gun Rights has fought against in this state in the last decade. We've never seen anything like this so far. So we need your help to pour a massive amount of pressure into the state capitol building opposing this. We've seen nothing from most of the Republican Party, hasn't breathed a word about this. We haven't seen Republican Senate leadership standing up there saying, we're not passing these bills. This bill is garbage. It's unconstitutional. It's an infringement, and we're not touching it. We're seeing none of that. We're not seeing any of that. So go.
Honestly, the words Republican Senate leadership, it's a total oxymoron. I mean, these people were given power in 2016. People like Paul Utke were elected because gun owners in their districts turned out in droves.
Yes.
But have Senate Republicans put one single bill on the Minnesota Senate floor in all those years of being entrusted with that position? Have they done anything to fight back against these people? No.
Not a single,
one.
not 6 years. We're on our 6th legislative session in Minnesota with Republicans in control of the Senate, and they have not put a single pro-gun bill on the Senate floor for a vote. They could.
And that refusal to do anything on the pro-gun side is literally like pouring gas on the fires to keep the Democrats' goals of passing gun control alive. I think there's this tendency amongst the gun owner crowd in Minnesota to sit there and to get kind of complacent. You kind of look at where we are now in 2022 versus where we were in 2013, for example, when Michael Paymar was running the Minnesota House Public Safety Committee, and gun owners were doing everything they could to stop that stuff. Minnesota gun rights came in, and we just have been just tearing down these gun control bills. And I think over time there gets to be this sense of, yeah, we got this. Yeah, it's just another gun control bill. But folks, that can all change. That will all change in the blink of an eye, the moment that they get the chance to do it. The moment, God forbid, there's a school shooting, a mass shooting anywhere in the state of Minnesota.
So we just had one, right? We just had the school shooting a short while ago, but that got and we were on red alert.
Look,
every wheel was turning here at Minnesota Gun Rights, gearing up for a major fight. These bills got introduced, but you know what? The shooter wasn't the demographic that the media needed.
Exactly.
And that was the only thing. That was the only thing. That was the only thing that stopped that school shooting from several weeks ago from turning into everything that was needed to have Senate Republicans fall flat on their face and Democrats hammer through gun control bills. The next school shooting may not look that way. That's how the media operates. It's how the Democrats work. It's how so many people operate. It was a gang shooting. It was a minority who did the shooting. Okay. And that wasn't something that they could publicize and put on the front of the newspapers. So they let the story die.
If it had been a white kid from Pipestone, Minnesota, we would be all in the fight of our lives right now to try to stop this very gun control by Senator Marty. So
Senator Marty. So guys, that's why we're doing this now. Fight
Yes.
now. It's always better to fight when it's easy than it is to fight when it's hard.
Yeah.
Fight now while we have a very good chance of stopping all of this gun control, putting the left on defense, putting the rhinos on defense, and shutting this stuff down entirely. We're gonna keep going. So number one on this bill, on these two bills, number one, it would require the registration of all firearms. Number two, you'd be allowed to purchase only one firearm every 30 days. Number three, it would require the registration of all magazines that hold over 10 rounds of ammunition. Number four, police chiefs would be allowed to issue or not issue permits to carry going forward. Number five, it would require mental and physical health tests in order to get a permit for gun owners. So number six is the mandatory reporting of lost or stolen firearms. And I talked to a gun owner yesterday, and there's big charges, big charges. You have 48 hours, I think it is, to make that call and report it. I got a call from a gun owner the other day, and I spoke to him, and he said, "Hold on a minute, looking at this bill." He goes, "I've got 4 work trucks, bunch of old Dodges and an old Ford." He said, "on my yard," and he said, "I carry some varmint rifles in the back seat of these old work trucks I tootle around on my farm." He said, "Sometimes I straight up forget where I put the varmint rifle. Is it in the back of this truck or is it in the back of that other truck?" And if he misplaces, if he loses that old 22 rifle in the back of his truck, if he doesn't report it in 48 hours, he can become a felon under these proposed laws. And so this is somehow supposed to help keep the public safe, right? It's supposed to lessen crime. There'll be less carjackings in the metro Ramsey County, Minnesota, if the farmers, up in northern Minnesota are calling in because they left a varmint rifle in the back of that work truck as opposed to that work truck. Makes a lot of sense to me.
It's just another one of those things that they throw into a bill like this so that they can sit there and claim that they have some kind of a moral high ground when they themselves personally are total degenerates, like in every way, in shape and sense of the word. They want to pretend like they know how to run your life better. They want to pretend that they have the right to tell you how to run your life. And so they throw garbage like this in there because they think they can then stand there and say, well, this is just common sense. If a
Right.
firearm is missing, the people need to know about it, and blah 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 blah. And if you don't, and then they never talk about the civil penalties, or they're civil until they turn criminal. But throwing $10,000 fines and stuff on top of this stuff, and whatever it's written as in the bill now is only that way as a placeholder until they get the bill on the floor to amend it way higher there. So again, this is just fluff that they throw in there to try to get gun owners to go on defense and sit there and try to defend their own rights, which we refuse to
Right.
do. So
Right. I agree with that entirely. Number seven. Ryan made the point here in the comments section a few minutes ago, just what you said, Chris. Why is it that people who've never shot a gun in their lives have no idea how firearms operate? Why are they
yeah,
allowed to craft legislation? I mean, I bet John Marty doesn't understand half the crap that's in here. He doesn't understand half the guns they list off, or the accessories that people like us use and toy around with and use at the range every day. Why are these people allowed to craft laws that infringe on our Second Amendment freedoms when they don't know the first damn thing about how these firearms operate?
I'll tell you
Um,
why. I'll tell you why. It's because the Democrats recruit people like John Marty to run for office, and they very often deliberately recruit these people out of civil service. In other words, people who have never worked in the real world a day in their life. A lot of these people grow up, they go to these liberal colleges, they get jobs in the public sector where they have big fat taxpayer funded jobs their entire lives, or they hook up with like the teachers union, the corrupt teachers union. They become these thugs, and then they recruit them out of those corrupt employment situations and beg them to run for office, promising them even more taxpayer money, more bigger, fatter taxpayer funded pensions. And they know then that they can control them throughout the entire process. Then they can say, here, introduce this gun control bill, introduce this bill that clamps down on taxpayers, introduce this and that. And the people there are all too willing to be used as total stooges. They have no worldview. They have no life experience that would tell them otherwise. They're total pawns on the chessboard of the radical left, of the fake news media. And they make excellent little stooges for the socialist communists trying to destroy the state in this country.
Well, you've seen it. We've seen this 1,000 times. You get these people stand up on the House floor, the Senate floor, as an attorney of many, many years, as a prosecutor, as an educator. I have been an educator for many years. We love our blah 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 blah. And they get up there and they tout these BS credentials that really are. They're negatives. They're giant friggin' negatives. We've watched what these teachers unions have done with our schools and our poor children over the last 2 years. They don't give a damn about our kids, about our future, about our freedom, about their welfare. Yet they all get up there and thump their chests about being educators and education. These are net negatives, not net positives.
That is a great point, especially the teachers union, because as the most corrupt union in America, they never ever ever talk about the kids, but they always talk about the teachers themselves, the professional educators, as if they are people who have somehow sacrificed in life. And given so much of themselves, when all along they're taxpayer funded, they're very secure in their jobs. They don't have to take the risks of owning a small business, and everything in their worlds are provided for. And meanwhile, we throw the vast majority of the state budget at this education thing, and it's getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And the kids are the ones who suffer. They're the ones who get left behind because they're only pawns on that political chessboard, just like gun rights, like all these issues are to the radical left. That's it.
And here you have COVID restrictions being lifted everywhere, and the teachers unions are still screaming, mask the kids, distance learning. We don't want to get out of our bathrobes and go to school anymore. We want to get paid and do absolutely nothing and mask the kids and make them all do the zombie walk. You've seen those things.
So terrible.
It's outrageous. It's absolutely outrageous.
None of them lost their jobs. None of them lost a paycheck. None of them missed a paycheck. None of them had to watch their lives and hopes and dreams get absolutely crushed in front of their faces by tyrannical edicts from a tyrant sitting there in the governor's mansion. No, none of that stuff. No.
and they still have the gall to stand up there and say the things. And again, and the Republicans don't say anything. Like, the Republicans don't stand up and say, Senator so-and-so, would you just like slow your roll a little bit? You so-called teachers, you great teachers unions have been destroying our kids, they don't say a thing. They're just, instead, the Republicans sit there and they fund all of this crap. They fund higher education. They fund these schools. They fund
record levels.
The University of Minnesota and all these other colleges that are cranking out socialism and communism at record pace. And Republicans just go, okay, woohoo, yep, you bet, sign, pass the bills.
When have Republicans ever said, yeah, let's reduce spending by 0.5%? Let's just freeze spending. Let's lower it 0.5%. Like, any family with a budget has had to do like crazy over the last year, especially now with inflation just going skyrocket.
Yep.
Have Republicans ever stood up and say, yeah, no, we have to cut spending. We have to temper down here. It's just like the whole system is this way. You go by the schools, you go by the inner city police chiefs, parking spots, and they all are driving 2022 vehicles.
Right.
Like they never ever like self-control or not treat the taxpayer like an unlimited milk cow. It's always the best. They're never like the people out here in the real world who have to make decisions, who have to weigh things, who have to make decisions in their family budgets about, well, we're going to do this, but we can't do this. We've got to prioritize this. No, it's always the taxpayers are a cow to be milked, and the Republicans, Paul Gazelka, people like him, they've always gone along with it. And it's a total shame. It's a total sham. And they should be apologizing on bended knee.
It's 100% true. In 2017, when we had Republican control of both the House and the Senate, at that time, Governor Mark Dayton came out and said, I want a 10% increase in our state budget. 10%. And 10%. We're at like nearly $60 billion a year, or every 2 years now in Minnesota. And you know what the Republicans did? The Republicans said, that's outrageous. That's absolutely unbelievable. How could you even suggest a number like that? We'll settle for 8%.
Oh my gosh.
And then when it was done, they settled at 9.5%. At 9.
Is this freaking true? Oh my
100%
gosh.
true. It's the same. It's when they funded the Somalian daycare fraud. It's when they funded taxpayer funding for abortions. Republicans did all of this stuff. And so, Mark Dayton wanted 10% government growth, and Republicans settled at 9.5%. 9.5%. And now,
that's like that redefines stupid at a whole new level. I mean, like in cards, in poker, I mean, you bluff a little bit, right? You kind of go up here hoping to come down there.
right.
I mean, they miss the basics of life. I mean, of growing up as a kid, you're always trying to get the edge on somebody else. Do they not see that a 10% demand by Captain Akalak was a negotiating tactic? They should have said, no, we're going to cut it by 10% unless you start being freaking real here. That's what they should have done. You meet in the middle at 0.
Yes.
0.
Yes. It's not that hard. Anybody who's never, I mean, I was bartering to buy a bicycle when I was 12 years old, and they wanted $50 for the damn bike, and I offered them $10, and I think we settled on like 26.
I had a pretty good bike. I thought it was worth $50, man. I mean, come on.
Like Chris said, these are the basics of life, and Republicans, well, they're not even Republicans. They're not even Republicans.
Children,
so
dumb kids, not even smart ones.
They're fine. Republicans will always settle for socialism. If it means
Gazelka.
Especially Paul Gazelka. That guy's out there. He thinks he's going to be governor, and he's going to get absolutely slaughtered. I don't think he's going to do very good. But Paul Gazelka out there growing government like a mad freaking hatter, voting for taxpayer funding for abortions. Spent 5 years as Senate Majority Leader, killed Stand Your Ground, killed constitutional carry, killed all the pro-gun bills, never put a single pro-gun bill up for a vote.
And allowed gun control hearings.
Oh, yeah. It held hearings on red flag gun confiscations and universal gun registration. So that's Minnesota Republicans for you. Well, that's why Minnesota gun rights exists, because if we didn't band together as this coalition of gun owners fighting back, Republicans would undoubtedly pass gun control, because they just don't care about the Second Amendment. Let's go to point number 7 here. Requires the registration of all 50 caliber firearms. And I'm pretty sure I know exactly why that's in there, because you're asking yourself, well, I thought point number 1 was registration of all firearms, and now this one says registration of all 50 caliber firearms. Isn't that a little bit redundant? because, well, I think that John Marty wants to sit up there in front of committee and go, why does anybody need to own a bullet like this? Don't you know bullets like this can take down helicopters and kill the Hulk? And I think that's why he put that in there specifically, so that he could. But we love 50 cals. We love
Oh
them.
yeah. They go through an engine block so beautifully. I mean, everybody should have one. I love it.
They're so
Beautiful.
great.
Look at that. Oh, that's
And
that
they weigh like a
beautiful green.
pound. I just love
Oh,
it.
yeah.
I
Hot
love it.
molten lead inbound. I love it.
Yes, yes. So screw you on that one too, Senator Marty. Number 8, and we're drawing to the end of our list here. Firearms would be banned in all government buildings, and this would be a felony charge. A felony charge if you carry a firearm, concealed or otherwise, into a government building. So, these people, they always want to put themselves above the people. It's
Sure.
always what this is about. It's always about protecting themselves more than anybody. But what these fools don't understand is that when a law-abiding gun owner, when a Minnesota gun rights supporter is packing, and is carrying a concealed pistol with a jacket over it, what's happening is everybody in that building is safer because that person
Amen.
is there. I feel better every day when I walk into a store and or a gun shop or wherever else, and you can just kind of tell the kind of guy, the kind of person, the kind of gal
Oh yeah.
who are carrying. Some of the women carry the purses, and you can see like the little zipper on the back of the purse. It's a concealed carry purse.
And
It's
by the way, they're always the most attractive women too. The
like I
ones that
said,
are carrying
you
the
can tell.
firearms. Oh my gosh, just
You
gorgeous.
you could
Gorgeous.
tell. And so they want to ban all of these people as if somehow, again, as always, as if somehow a thug or a criminal is going to give a crap about their laws, about their signs that are hanging up. So that's number 8, a felony freaking charge if any of that stuff happens.
Well, before we get on to the next one, and I know we're wrapping this down here, but it's the old axiom is totally true. By trying to ban all firearms in government buildings, you're instantly reminded of that old statement on all those old tin signs. Fear the government that fears an armed populace. If the government is terrified of the citizens having firearms, they are up to zero good. They cannot be trusted. They
Right.
don't have your good in mind, and it's the total markings of a communist, socialist, tyrannical government. If the government can't trust its people with firearms, that government cannot be trusted.
Right.
And so that's just a hallmark sign of a government gone corrupt when they start to ban firearms in public buildings or in public places and stuff like that. It starts to expand. It starts there and it works its way out. Pretty soon you can't carry in all these different places because
Yes.
the government itself is corrupted.
Yes. Well, and you stop and think to yourself, like, why would what is a legitimate reason that a government would have for fearing gun owners? I mean, you imagine like a population of gun owners who are just like a bunch of psychopaths, but the reality is, everyday Americans have such a vested interest in making sure their communities are safe, they're peaceful, they're prosperous, their children are educated well, they're safe on the streets, your neighbors are taken care of, everybody has food on the table. Everyday Americans are constantly concerned with the protection and enrichment of their friends, their
Yes.
neighbors, their communities, their cities, their state, and their country. That's why blue collar, conservative, red, white, and blue Americans are the best citizens in our country. And so the only way that a government could possibly fear those people, because again, we're not the machete wielding psychopaths burning down Lake Street. Okay. And apparently the left doesn't fear them. They can roast the
No,
Walmart.
they bail them out of jail. They go around
Exactly.
and you have people like Kamala Harris on
Yeah, Minnesota
national
Freedom
television.
Fund, they bail them
Yeah.
out.
Yep, they're going to actblue.com and stuff like that, posting their bail so that these animals can get out and continue to burn, loot, shoot, and murder
Yes.
everybody else, more
And
people.
so the only reason that a government could possibly have to fear gun owners is if they intend and they have been doing shit that would cause law-abiding gun owners to fight back, to rebel against tyrannical laws, shutdowns, mandates, things that are not allowed by government. So yes, the adage, when you actually stop and think about it, is 1,000% true. Fear the government, or we would say fight against the government that fears guns in the hands of the citizenry, because we are the best in America, and these people are tyrants or wannabe tyrants. And that's why people like John Marty have introduced bills like Senate File 3377 and 3378. So
Yep.
that's number 8. So I'll do a quick countdown again. Number 1 would require the registration of all firearms. Number 2 would allow only one gun purchase every 30 days in the state of Minnesota. Number 3 in these bills would require the registration of all magazines over 10 rounds. Number 4 would give police chiefs the ability to issue or not issue permits to carry. Number 5 is mental and physical health tests before you can get a permit. Number 6 is mandatory reporting of all lost or stolen firearms. Number 7 would require the registration of all beautiful 50 caliber firearms. Number 8 would make it so that all firearms would be banned in all government buildings at risk of a felony charge. And number 9 is you'd have to have a permit to own any firearms at all. So again, it's just more registration. It's more got to have a permit, got to be in a government database, got to pay fees, got to lay it all out there for them in order to own a firearm. And again, do you think a single person that was burning Lake Street had a permit for anything at all? Do you think any of those guns were legal? Do you think
You
any
think
of
they were
them went down
following
to
any law at all, or were they a total law unto themselves? They were, after all, a mob.
violent mob? You think a single one of them walked into the Modern Sportsman and picked up their pistol before they went and shot up the neighborhood and burned down the O'Reillys? I don't think so. I don't think so.
No, no.
I have a beer on Friday nights. I don't burn Wendy's. Okay, like I might,
Or go Christmas shopping at your local Target.
yeah, it's Christmas season again. Everybody
Middle
grab
of
your
July.
bricks.
Christmas
Everybody
in July.
grab your
But
bricks.
this permit to own any firearms, that's number 9 on the list. It goes very well with number 10 on the list, and that is the liability insurance to own firearms. And now this whole idea, permits to own firearms, liability insurance to own firearms, it's ripped right out of HR 127 from this last from what's her name, Sheila Jackson Lee she's from Texas, right?
Yeah.
Who introduced that monster gun control bill at the federal level. And what they want to do here is in particular, I don't know the particulars of this piece of legislation, but what they want to do with this, if they can get it onto the floor, is they will amend it to be just like that HR 127, where you have to pay, I think it was an $850 fee, I think, per firearm.
This is worse. The way this bill is written, it says the Commissioner of Commerce shall set a minimum amount of coverage satisfactory to the commissioner. So
Oh my gosh.
they don't even give you a number. So what Chris is talking about, $850 per firearm, the Commissioner of Commerce could make it whatever the hell they want it to be. Whatever number they want. Whatever number they want.
That's all, and then that's before I mean, was that for the permits or for the liability insurance?
That's for the liability
For the
insurance.
liability insurance. Well, of course, they can also then tack a fee onto the license, the freedom license, the permit to own any firearm, and they can tax you. Right? I mean, that's
Oh, I
straight
see.
up
You were
taxing.
talking about taxing each firearm individually as part of
Yeah, because
HR
with HR
127.
127, for example, and that's exactly what they'll do if they can get this bill onto the floor, is they will run an amendment and they will tax each and every firearm that you own per year. And we saw this with in Congress. They'll do it here, where I mean, for somebody like me, I would have to pay tens of thousands of dollars a year to
Yes.
simply own firearms or to keep the firearms that
Yes.
I got. And of course, I couldn't afford to keep going and buying more like I do every week. When every week, I wish. When I have to also pay at $850 or whatever the arbitrary number is,
Right.
license
The
for that right.
magazines in that bill, the magazines were $200 tax per magazine that you own.
Yeah, yeah,
$200 per magazine. I mean,
yep,
if a bill like this actually made it onto the floor, it's unfathomable what else they would do before they passed it.
yeah.
Right? If
It
it's
it's
this.
high treason is what it is. It's a
Yes.
total crime against humanity. Bills like this are the eradication of freedom. They should be I mean, in some sense, this should be a prosecutable offense for them to introduce a piece of legislation like this. It's a total attack on everything that it is to be a free person. Um,
Yes.
and and I'll tell you what, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to know what would have happened in previous times in our wonderful, illustrious American history.
Mm.
Tyrannical actions like this, it always reminds me of that Boston governor who started to implement the
Oh, yes.
the Stamp Act. And I forget what his name is, but what happened after he tried to start enforcing this on behalf of the king is that the Sons of Liberty, um, in one night, they totally dismantled his entire house, all the way down to the very foundation bricks, all the way down. They tore that whole house down and they chased him through the streets of Boston like a dog until the next morning. And I think he was back in his. He was the governor and he's also the judge. But that's these types of bills like this are deliberately introduced to totally destroy the very moral fabric and lawful order of
Yes.
our society, so that all of society can look like Lake Street in the summer of 2020.
Yes.
And it's it's very much criminal what their
Yes.
intents and purposes are behind legislation like this.
Right. I mean, the Second Amendment and the right to defend innocent life, these are moral concepts
Yes,
that
yes,
were laid out in our founding documents by the founding fathers as basically the rights of all men everywhere. Every man, every woman has the right to defend themselves, to defend their loved ones, to defend life. I mean, that's the basics of human rights. And
right,
so to attack and that was simply codified into our founding documents as being recognized by the founders as being given by God, an inherent, innate right that we as a brand new nation will recognize forever. And so these things are absolutely what Chris said, treasonous and immoral, and tear apart the moral fabric of our society and would destroy America entirely. This is why states like California, 75 years ago, you couldn't get to California fast enough.
right.
Everybody wanted 50 years
It's
ago,
true.
everybody wanted to live in California. It was the most beautiful, wonderful state in the nation, and people couldn't get there fast enough. It's been totally destroyed. Now we all laugh at it, we all scoff at it, we all hate it now. It's California. But not too long ago, it was run by patriots who loved America, took good care of their state, and it was the state everybody wanted to live in. That's what bills like this do to a state. They reduce
Yeah.
it to nothing. They reduce
Yeah.
it to nothing.
Yep.
John Marty, I hope the history books forget you ever lived. I hope your children and your grandchildren scorn your name. I hope they trash you for the rest of eternity. People like you are absolute scum of the earth who would totally destroy all that is good in the name of your own political aspirations. You are a dog, John Marty. And the sooner you're out of office, the better for our state.
All
So
I
that's
have to say to that is, amen. Can I get another? Because boy, was that some truth laid down
I mean,
right
I've,
there.
I've
I
I've
would,
just been thinking about these things a lot lately. I was off of Facebook Live for a little bit longer than I wanted to be. My wife just had my fourth kid. So our fourth boy. So we got 4 kids, 4 boys. The fourth boy just showed up last Wednesday. That's why you didn't see me on Facebook Live for the last few days. But I think more about these things all the time, about the future of this state, the future of this country for our children. Where laws and moral codes like the Second Amendment come from. And the more I think about these things, the more I fight for my children, the more I despise people like Tim Walz, people like John Marty, people like Speaker of the House Melissa Hortman, and backstabbing losers like Paul Gazelka and Kurt Doubt and so many others that have screwed this state so hard that people are leaving it in droves, that people don't want to live here anymore. That was what was once a gorgeous, beautiful Midwestern state full of mines and miners and 10,000 lakes and just a beautiful land to live in is being annihilated by bastards in office, by bad policy, by bad laws being pushed by bad people who got no business pushing this crap. If you agree, guys, if you agree with that assessment, please go to joinmgr.com, become a member of Minnesota Gun Rights, renew your membership today if you haven't already done so. I know that people like Ryan, I'm pretty sure, has done it. Mark said he was going to renew his membership when I talked to him on the phone just the other day. Join Minnesota Gun Rights. Nobody else in this state thinks about this and believes in the Second Amendment the way we do, the way we're fighting for right here. Those lunatics at the Minnesota Gun Owners Caucus are a bunch of left-wing, liberal, I mean, they're as left as it gets, pro-aborts, open borders, fiscal liberals, LGBT, the whole thing. They hated Donald Trump. They hated conservatives. They laughed and screamed at us when we protested in front of the governor's mansion during the lockdowns and the mandates. They love the jab. They love it all. That is who runs the Minnesota Gun Owners Caucus. Brian Strasser and lazy freaking Rob. They do not believe in the American ideals of freedom and responsibility and morality that we are fighting for here at Minnesota Gun Rights and what we push so hard for. That's why we oppose crap like this from John Marty. So go to joinmgr.com, become a member of Minnesota Gun Rights, make a contribution to this fight, and we can win this. We've been stopping this gun control for a decade in years when nobody thought it was possible, when nobody thought we could defeat them. We defeated them, and we can and we will do this again. Go to joinmgr.com, guys. We're going to hop off right now. I will be back at 7 o'clock. It's 50 minutes from now. I'll be back at 7 o'clock with a live stream with a phenomenal state representative. You won't want to miss it. We have some great breaking news coming from St. Paul, a different conversation about different topics. But tune into that. Join us at joinmgr.com. Make a contribution at donate, mgr.com, donate to mgr.com. And I'll be back and we'll talk, guys, in just a little bit. Take care.
Well, good night.